What's up, everybody? It's that half-breed here. What the fuck is up? How you doing? And we're back here with part 4 now of our every leader run through, a deck list for every leader in honor of my speed run, where I did a speed run of every single leader in the game getting at least one win, and we finished all 45 leaders in the game just under 12 hours. So this part of the video is, or this part of our series is all of our purple decks that we played, and we're starting right off with a deck that for the longest time I thought was the absolute most troll, just like a deck that you would only play if you don't care about winning at all. But this deck has actually put up real results. It top 8'd an event that Eggman hosted, and it top 32'd a regional. King has now officially top 32 to regional. Someone has qualified for nationals with King. It's really crazy. And this deck is pretty legit. It's one of those things where the sad fact is the purple cards are actually pretty good, but the purple deck just hasn't really had a leader to really help the purple cards be as good, which is why in OPO5 when purple Luffy comes out, purple really pops onto the scene too. But King is like, you know, it's a kind of underpowering leader, but you just have a lot of really strong purple cards that you get to make maximum advantage out of. You got Oni Island as ramp. We have our other ramp cards, of course. We got Jack Gatling. If it comes out a trigger, it ramps you. Miss All Sunday ramps. Basil Hawkins ramps. And then this is a sort of just a 5-drop sweep deck where we're playing just a lot of 5s. Kyoshiro to draw us cards. Baba Nuki as a just vanilla 5/7, X-Drake good 2k, and Magellan to control their Dawn and be just a really hard to deal with threat early. And then Polly for even more ramp and a little bit of removal as well. And because we're playing so many 5s, you know, Miss All Sunday and Queen as well, then we get to play this Rush Luffy, which is basically 6/7 Rush. You know, you have to Dawn -1 and discard a card, but it still can catch people unawares. I'm still not sure whether it's worth playing this Luffy or whether it's better to just play 9-drop Kaido instead, because that also has Rush. But you certainly can get some games where you're just going to be too fast for your opponent. You know, you're going to be Oni on 3, into Miss All Sunday, into boom. If you have anything on the board, I'm just going to 10-drop. And then whenever you fill the board up again, I'm going to 10-drop a second time. And, you know, the multiple 10-drops in this deck can actually really catch people off guard. You know, you can Wrath. It's really good against Dofi. It's both versions, blue or green-purple. Can be really, you know, can even help you steal some wins against yellow if they play 10-drop Big Mom and you just play your 10-drop to kill theirs after. And, you know, this deck definitely, it just focuses on always trying to have more Dawn than your opponent, either by using Magellan or Island or just your ramp effects, and then just attacking people down and keeping the board clear with your King leader effect and your 10-drop Kaidos, of course. And you actually have a good flow of cards in this deck, you know, Kyoshiro draws, Miss All Sunday draws, Queen draws. So, it's certainly like, the biggest thing is when you see somebody with a King leader across from the table against you, don't count them out. That's what I have to say. Don't immediately be like, ha, I got a free win this round, because that's really not how it's going to play often. And you have to be on your toes to make sure you don't get punked out by Kaido, and you have to pray and cross your fingers that they don't just slam Oni Island at the start of the game right away. And, you know, in another vein of a deck that's really similar to this, just slightly different, we got Purple Kaido. Now, this is a super focused, just pure ramp deck. We're all in on the ramp stuff. We have All Sunday, Hawkins, Island, and Polly. And, of course, trigger off of Jack Gatling. And we're just ramping into 9-drop Kaido, 10-drop Kaido, and leader ability Kaido. And that's it. You know, we're just Dawn minusing some crazy amount multiple times per game so that we can ramp it all right back up with our Onis, you know, and all the cards are I named before. The idea with this Kaido deck is definitely just you never want to have a turn where you're not gaining 2 Dawn at the start of your turn. You know, if you have 10 Dawn, you're like, all right, it's time to Dawn minus on something. I don't know whether I'm going to Dawn minus my leader or 10 drop or Kaido, but we're Dawn minusing something. That's all I know. So that you can get more value off of your island and just off of getting Dawn back when your opponent is already maxed out. And, you know, your opponent's always going to have to be aware that they might just lose a life off of the ability out of nowhere and then be very scared to lose to one of these 10 or 12k hits, you know. You put them on 1, you Dawn minus 7, then you're like, boom, 12k swing after you're at 0 life. These decks still can be targeted down. Sometimes they're too slow for red or too slow for Nami. But they're not out of the metagame, the purple decks, and of course, it's a good time to buy the purple cards now, because once ST10 comes out and once OPO5 comes out, the purple decks are only going to get better and better and better and better. Alright, next we have a deck where I couldn't quite... Like, I don't think this deck is playable in OPO4, but I do think it gets significantly better when ST10 comes out, and that is Z as a leader. Now, Z is already like a leader where the leader effect is just kind of weak, because the leader effect is super reliant on cards like mostly 10-drop Kuzan. It feels like you can't play a Z deck without 4 10-drop Kuzan in your deck, because that's how you win the vast majority of your games. By playing 10-drop Kuzan with a non-zero amount of life left, killing a 5 cost, and then attacking with your leader and killing an 8 cost or less after that, you know? And that sort of has to be your whole game plan, is just getting to 10 Dawn and playing Kuzan and attacking. And now we have a bunch of ways to actually help us get there, which is step 1, we have extra blockers. We have Law as a blocker, which is nice. Of course, insane value off of discarding. Just one of the most broken E-Show effects they've ever made. We got Wire, which is another blocker, and whenever we Dawn minus, we can draw a card and discard a card, which is a huge help to finding a 10-drop Kuzan if we need one, or discarding extras if we already have one. Beppo really helps in the late game after we've activated our leader ability to get us more Dawn to activate leader ability again and catch up. And Thunder Bagua and Punk Vice are like our main ramp cards in the deck, which is really helpful. Bagua, of course, ramps when we're at 2 life, which happens very quickly when you're only at 4. And Punk Vice is the new card from ST10 that really, really helps Z be a little better against aggro decks. It's cheap, it rests an attacker that you might not be able to kill otherwise, it ramps you, and the rest effect is not completely dead in the late game, where you can still rest cheap blockers in the late game, even if you do have 10 Dawn. So it's just a card that, like, is very rarely completely irrelevant and does the thing that you want to do of controlling the board and helping you ramp to your 10 drop earlier. You know, if you're on the play, Punk Vice is amazing to just cast on 3, rest whatever searcher they played, attack into it, and then you're set up to be on your 6, 8, 10 Dawn curve that you really would prefer to be on anyway. Alright. Now, next deck is, oh man, a deck where it's just like, why did they make this deck the way it is? I guess it kind of makes sense, but we got Iceburg. Iceburg is definitely one of those leaders where, like, if Iceburg could attack, it would be absolutely broken of a leader. But the fact that it can't makes such a huge difference. This deck did get a tiny bit of help in OPO4 with the addition of another searchable 2K. You do still have a lot of good cards. It's still definitely a deck where if you can get a fast enough early start, you have a chance, you know, because you're just really hoping that you get to untap, play Galley Law Company and then just start playing 2 5 costs every turn. You know, 1 for 5 Dawn and the second off your leader ability, and then hope that's going to get there afterwards. You are going to be Dawn minusing a lot with this deck because you have Dawn -1 on your leader, you have Dawn -1 on Kaku, Dawn -1 on Zambai, you got Dawn -1 on Lucci to rest, Dawn -1 on Queen. So you really, really, really want to hit Galley Law Company, which is just, you know, Oni Island, but different name. But thankfully you have a searcher, which can help you find the Galley Law. You know, this is definitely another more for fun deck. This is a cheap entry deck that you can get into. You know, the most expensive card is Queen, which is, of course, unfortunate, but you could potentially play something else and just have this entire deck cost, you know, $40, including an alternate art leader. But again, you need opening hand, like, for this deck to be viable, it feels like you need an opening hand that has a Galley Law Company and 2 Water 7 5-drops. Because if you don't have at least those things, you're just going to be too far out behind your opponent. And once they clear your board, there's just nothing you can do. You don't have any ways to pressure them with your leader. You don't have that many ways to draw extra cards outside of Queen and Zambai. So if you can't get ahead early and stay ahead, then this deck kind of sucks. But it is fun when you do get to do that. Yeah. Now, unfortunately here, we're going to continue the bad deck train, or the decks that I think are bad, where, man, I want this deck to be better than it is just because the leader is absolutely gorgeous. But purple-yellow Croc is just not it. That's all I can say. This leader is not it. The leader effect just does nothing. It, like, does not affect the game at all, really, until, like, turn 9 or 10. And even then, it's only very minor effects. And the purple and yellow cards just don't synergize that well. Obviously, this deck is pretty much just about playing blockers and stalling the game out until you can play multiple big guys and, use the Dawn minus effects to hold up your 1-cost events. But still, in this deck, if you don't hit multiple copies of this Crocodile, Katakuri, or Yamato, you're just going to be unable to kill them and you're going to die. That's the sad thing. It's just one of the least impactful leader abilities they've ever printed, basically. The leader ability is just irrelevant like 90% of the time. And I know Eggman loves the deck, but do you see him win with the deck? Answer, no, he doesn't. No, he does not cook. Can't lie to me. Gonna lie to me and says Eggman cooks, damn. If you weren't wielding a green sword, I'd time you out for just lying to me in chat. No, I'm kidding, I'm kidding. But, yeah. I want Baroque Works cards to be good so bad. And I absolutely love this Purple Crocodile. I think it's really good. But the fact that it's leader locked and all of the Crocodile leaders kind of suck really hurts. I've seen his list, but I don't know. I think his list is kind of troll. I don't know. I don't believe. That's the thing. I know Eggman believes, but I don't believe. I literally think Isho is significantly better than this deck. Like, Isho is better than this deck. Kaido is better than this deck. King is better than this deck. That's just my take, you know, out of, like, out of all the purple decks I've played, this is either the second worst one or the worst one, you know. We're going to get to the worst one probably after this, but yeah. Not a fan. I love this artwork, dude. I love this artwork. I love Baroque Works, man. I don't want to be sitting here saying this deck is bad, all right? I don't want to be, but I have to be, all right? Like, I have to be honest with you guys. That's all it is. I gotta be honest with you guys. And this is one of the decks where it took more than one try to actually get a win with it. And I just don't know if there's any fixing it, you know? But certainly give it a try if you like it, but it just feels like, why am I spending all this money buying expensive-ass Katakuris and Yamatos to play them in this Crocodile deck? That's just always what I think to myself. It's like, why would anyone buy $50 Crocodile, $50 Katakuris to play them in Purple Yellow Crocodile? That's just the biggest thing that's always like, why? Alright, now here we get to the worst purple deck and potentially the worst deck in the format. One of the worst decks in the game. Welcome to Purple Shanks. This just really is one of the worst decks in the game. The film cards are just not very good. The Dawn minus effect is expensive. It only gives it to film characters, and it's really like, yeah. This deck is really not great. You can have some fast aggro starts where you just, this is what Bello Betty, this deck is what, like, Bello Betty is what this deck should have been, honestly. Like, imagine if this deck was Bello Betty instead of what it is. Like, if it was instead of Dawn -3, if it was like discard a film card to give 3 film characters +2 or 3 film characters +3, it would be so different. But because it's like a Dawn minus card, and you have all the other Dawn minus cards that you want to play, and it makes it really tough to activate it 2 times in a row. Yeah, it just means I'm really not a big fan of this deck. I tried it, and Douglas Bullet is certainly a hell of a card. There's a bunch of games where you can just play Douglas Bullet, and then your opponent's just like, well, I can't block, because this just rests both blockers. Like, it rests 2 characters with a cost of 6 or less. That's basically every blocker you could play that's not blocker Luffy, or like 7-drop Kid. So when Bullet comes down, if it doesn't get red rocked, it's like, it's gonna hit you. It's gonna hit you. But if you don't curve out perfectly with this deck, or if your opponent has any type of removal spells, it's gonna be very hard to win. But still, your best aggressive curves are just like, you know, going first, 3-5 into 5-6 Ramper, into, you know, 4-6 or something. You just want to ramp, and then when you have 4 characters, just blitz your opponent down in a turn or 2. Okay, but now, to finish up the purple decks, we're going to get to a deck that's actually good. And then this is the deck that I want to play in OPO5. The first tier 1 deck that has really made me be like, ooh, I should try this deck. This deck looks fun. And that's Purple Luffy. This deck is real. It's tier 1. It's exceptionally good. And honestly, I want to play, I'm going to play Pauly over King. I've been convinced that Pauly's actually good. Okay, but Purple Luffy leader ability is insane. It's really close to Whitebeard, where like losing the life doesn't actually matter because you can still use the card in your hand to protect your life, which is basically like, you know, you didn't actually lose the life. It didn't go to your trash. It going to your hand is really not that big a difference. And you just have some absolutely unbeatable curves where you can be like, okay, I'm going first, get 3 Dawn, go to 4, play ulti into page 1, okay, 5, you know, go to 6 Dawn, play a 6-8, and then the following turn, we're at 8, and we go to 9, and we just play Kaido, you know, and then we went 4-5 plus 4-6 into 6-8 into 9-10 rush, and, you know, we're playing 9-10 rush on basically our 3rd turn of the game. So it's like you can really put a lot of pressure on, and you still have good defense because you have Queen blocker, you have Law blocker, and you have the new Eustace Captain Kidd blocker. And you can tie the whole room together with when you're at the sea, you fight pirates, which searches Straw Hat 2K, Straw Hat 2K, 6-8, the lovely Zoro Juro, which helps you ramp and is a wonderful early play. And of course, the brilliant ST10 card of 7-drop Kid, which is one of the best purple cards ever printed. I feel like the best 3 purple cards out there are like Kaido, this 7-drop, and Queen, and then like closely behind that you have Blocker Law and Blocker Kid. But yeah, there's a couple different versions of this Luffy deck list. I prefer the one that's playing when you're at sea over the one that's playing like Magellan and 7-9 Urashima. But it's up to you what you want to play. Magellan definitely is good in the mirror match and a couple of other matchups. But I love me some searchers. I will always try and play a searcher whenever possible. And honestly, when OP05 comes out, I'm probably going to be one of the degenerates just grinding purple Luffy. I got to prepare myself for a bunch of mirrors. But yeah, that's all the purple decks that we played. It's the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. We just got one more video left. We got the black and the yellow decks. Gonna put them together since there's so few black and yellow leaders since they, came out after the game first really started. But yeah, I hope there's some decks in here you want to try. Of course, I spent some time poo-pooing on decks because unfortunately purple kind of still is the forgotten color until we get to ST10 and OP05 and OP6. But if purple is your jam, there's definitely going to be a deck list in here somewhere that you might like. Yeah, and I hope you enjoyed. Please, leave a like. Check out the Twitch stream where we're streaming all the time. Just twitch.tv/dadhalfbreed. And if you have, any questions or any decks you want to see me play, definitely hit me down in the comments below and wherever you can find me or DM me. Appreciate you guys. Have a great day. And, enjoy finding the One Piece. Peace out.